is moving back to the country into a BPO business of ours, and he, even before coming here, has been here a couple of times, and he's already started moving towards that. And he talked about Tirunelveli, although he's never been to Tirunelveli himself, but he studied this thing, and he said, I'm going to move part of my thing into Tirunelveli and other places. So we turned around and said, why not Karaikudi? Because obviously, because that's where we're closer, and certainly. So he's looking at both options, sir. So that innovation, I believe, is starting. This is the advantage, I believe, of family businesses, because you do have certain. It depends on the values that you have, and depends on the environment that you can provide. But if you didn't have values, if your objective is only to make money at the expense of everything else, then I think it'll not happen. So fundamentally, we got to, this I believe is where we need to do the introspection as families, and majority as family businesses who are here, start looking at your value systems and your own personal values, and how you're going to communicate this, and how you're going to imbibe it in your own children. Take, for example, my daughter and her children live in Austin, Texas. Two children come into India every year for their summer. And this is not just my daughter's children in America, but the children here. They all try and develop the habit of sharing with everybody else. They have 3 piggy banks. Anybody who gives them money, they try and say, one is for my future as savings, 1/3 which I put there. The other 1/3 is for me to enjoy myself. The other 1/3 is to share with others. They are allowed 2 suitcases every year. So in one suitcase they always bring, and they go back to the village which belongs to them, or where they come from, to the village in the school. They've adopted the school. So they bring toys and notebooks and pencils for the children. Right from the age of 3 to 5, they start off sharing. This is how you perpetuate the values to your children. So once you decide on your own personal values systems as a first generation entrepreneur, how do I make sure that my second and the third generation get this value systems? I think it's something that all of you will have to spend your time thinking about it, and start innovating yourself. And I'm almost certain you'll find it's well worth the while, because some of the problems Mr. Sainath is mentioning, and some of the problems that the government is not going to be able to solve all the problems. If we wait for it, we'll be waiting for it for even our grandchildren. This time it will not happen in this country. But you and I, as family businesses, provided we believe, because if we grow, we can also solve some of the other problems, I think is where I come from, and I really do believe it can be done, provided all of us in family businesses are very focused on this thing. As families, the other thing that we will have is each of us, like all 5 fingers, are totally different in a family. None of us have the same common thinking. We'll never ever have. But how do we get all, without the 5, we can never ever succeed. So this is really where at least my understanding, is situational leadership. Now I know 2 American universities have started doing research on this area, on leadership. What they call situational leadership. You don't have to be. This is the real role of the original Karta, not the Hindu undivided family law, which the Anglo-Saxon brought in and said Karta is the head of the family and is the eldest member. The Karta's role is to nominate the leader, and then he himself subjudicates to that other leader to whom he nominates. Take, for example, if you take Mahabharata, Yudhishthira is the head Karta. He is never the leader. As far as I'm concerned, the way I look at Mahabharata, Arjuna was the man on the field when it goes to war. But when it comes to diplomacy and negotiations, it was Sahadeva, and everybody else subjugated themselves to Sahadeva's ability to negotiate. So exactly the same thing happened in our family when I was growing up. When it came to dealing with trade unions, or when it came to or the shop floor, I was the person. When it came to the banking, my brother Doesn't matter which of the companies negotiations had to take place. My brother was the person who would go and negotiate. When it comes to diplomacy, my eldest brother Arunachalam was the person. So the situational leadership, and I'm sure in every family you have somebody who is capable of doing something else. We tend to write them off rather than use them. We tend to exclude them, even in families. You don't have to exclude them at a national level, we exclude them in the families. We write them off and say, he's good for nothing. But can we include them and bring them back into the roles and then see how it can be worked out? And this is really what I learned in all my 1 years of Kellogg experience, of trying to see how do you bring every family member into a role? How do you bring them in to play a role even in the foundation work? All our ladies, whom we exclude in the business, by the way. I know Ram is showing his fingers. He's going to start a union with our leaders, our young ladies in the family, but he's been trying that for years and it hasn't worked yet. But he hasn't given up either. Neither are we. It's an area which we sit and discuss and think. It has had some values in the old. So what are we doing? How do we include them now? They're all involved in the foundation work. They go to the schools, they go to the hospitals, they do some excellent work there. Slowly, a bit by bit. Any change, if you bring it out rapidly, the other thing that we were told in terms of values, if you put a sari or a dhoti after washing it in the barbed wire for drying, don't try and pick it up in one go. Try and do it slowly, otherwise it'll rip the sari or the dhoti. So it takes time. Some of these things are imbibed in our villages, in our customs, so we have to do it extremely cautiously and slowly. These are some of the values, so that's why I go back all the time to the values. Even as CII, I was introduced as CII president. I was AIEI president and not CII president some 25 years ago or more than, actually it's more than 25 years ago, it's almost 30 years ago now. So I'm a very old hand in this CII thing. I believe it is these values that CII practice. We did a lot of workshops in the early days when I was president and it continued to be so. The values, what are the values that as an organization? So you'll see some of this, what I'm saying rubs off into the organization in AIEI. We were not willing to go just lobbying with the government alone. That was not like most of the other chambers of commerce did. We were saying we will provide as much input as we expect. So you will see the concept of quality, which all of us require today to be competitive in the globalization process, was entirely taken up by CII just about the time that my presidentship or the year after my presidentship. So it became important. We realized quality was not, if the quality was not there, we'll never be able to compete in. So the internal competition process, not the external competition process, was brought in by CII. Within the country, how do we make people compete with each other?